You painted all these bunks yourself?
And the foot lockers, too. But I spend most of my time in the latrine. Because Sergeant King said he never seen a man so interested in latrines as you are. You go in there and look at them faucets. I polished them so hard they don't say hot and cold no more.
Will Stockdale is at least one of the most, if not the most, Christ-like character I ever met.
Girl. The whole man-woman relationship. Didn't your father ever talk to you about it?
Yes, sir.
Don't you remember what he told you? Well, what did he tell you?
Well, there was this one about these two traveling salesmen. The car breaks down in the middle of this terrible storm, and they come running up to this farm.
Some of the executives felt in rehearsal that the show and Andy's performance were so funny that they wanted to have an audience in there for a live reaction rather than use canned laughter or have dead silence. So the laughter on the soundtrack is authentic.
Yes, sir. My boy wants kerosene. By dog, he gets kerosene. Yeah?
It's familiar.
Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Mr. Roddy McDowell.
In September of 1955, a play opened on Broadway called No Time for Sergeants. I was in it, in the role of a soldier named Ben. But the star of that show, which was a big, big hit, was a newcomer to Broadway known as Andy Griffith. There are still people today who remember that play with great fondness, and of course it became a movie. But there are very few who are aware that on March 15th, 1955, 7 months before the Broadway opening, the Theatre Guild presented No Time for Sergeants on live television. I was not in it. As a matter of fact, except for Andy, nobody was in the television show that did the stage play. But the reason Andy Griffith was the star of the Broadway version was that against all odds, and in a way that put some 1930s movies to shame, Andy Griffith came out of nowhere to become Will Stockdale, the drawling draftee. But let Andy take us back 26 years and tell us how that happened.
I went in to read for the play, and I was scared to death because I was not an actor. I knew nothing of cameras. I knew not a whole lot about stage. I knew about standing in front of a microphone in the middle of the stage and telling jokes. It's pretty well what I knew. And this fellow named James Haggerty read me. And I didn't read well, but I did have the right kind of accent and was more or less the right size and age. And he took me into another room to look at a calendar to see when I would be in town again. Now, there was a lady sitting there in that room. I don't know who she was. I never saw her again to my knowledge. So she said, what do you do? I said, I work nightclub. She said, do you sing? I said, no, I talk. She said, what do you talk about? I said, Shakespeare, opera, ballet. She said, Shakespeare? I said, yes, Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet. She said, Hamlet? I said, that's right. She said, do you do it? I said, no, I tell it. She said, well, start. I said, well, Hamlet's named after this young boy Hamlet that appears in the play. And he lived in this castle over in the old country with his mom and daddy, where his daddy was king over this land. And before the play ever opens, Hamlet's uncle killed Hamlet's daddy so that he might gain the throne, and then married Hamlet's mom, and that made him Hamlet's stepdaddy. And all do try to remember that, because you will need it later on. And I don't know, I started doing that monologue. I'd written the monologue a few years ago, and I did it in nightclub all the time. And I started doing it, and it sounds like a real bad B or C movie, but it actually did happen. Mr. Haggerty left the room and brought somebody else in. That person brought somebody else in, and finally the room filled up. It really actually filled up, and I started getting some laughs because they knew Hamlet, you know. And I started getting laughs, and that lady was laughing. And I wound up doing the whole monologue. It was a long monologue, about 10 minutes long. And when I finished it, I had that part.
The part of Will Stockdale, as Andy played it, had a lot more complexity to it than most people realized.
Will Stockdale is at least one of the most, if not the most, Christ-like character I ever met. In that, I don't mean to compare him with Christ, I mean that he wanted only to give. Will Stockdale never wanted to take. He never wanted anything for himself, and he didn't care what anybody did to him. He might be hurt, but he'd walk away from it.
I did dozens of live television shows, and I can remember how I felt before the ready light went on, and you knew you were on the air. I tell you, it was terrible. One simply never felt ready. Well, you can imagine how Andy Griffith must have felt. This was his very first appearance on live television drama.
I was scared to death. I was just scared to death. I didn't know how you could live for those next few seconds when they say 1 minute. I think they said 45 seconds. Then they said 30 seconds. Then they said 15 seconds. It's like Jesus is coming to get you then.
A couple of days after the show was on the air, the New York Times Review said, as the carefree lavatory technician, Andy Griffith was ideally cast. He has not been seen on television before, and it cannot be said at this point whether he is versatile enough to qualify for other important roles. Well, of course, Griffith proved down through the years that he was not a flash in the pan.
And that role seemed so specialized that it would be hard to tell whether the person who did that and did it well would be able to do anything else or would be able to understand anything else, or whether that person wasn't just that person. I can understand that, and I'm glad it's not true. I've had a real good life. I'm grateful to Will Stockdale for it.
Very few comedies were tried in those 1 hour and 90-minute programs. I suppose primarily because it's very difficult to sustain comedy for that long a period of time. Most of those that were done don't seem to hold up when you look at them today. No Time for Sergeants is different. Levin wrote a superior adaptation. Alex Siegel did one of his usually outstanding jobs of direction. But if there's any one reason for No Time for Sergeants to be included in this example of the best of the golden age, I have to point to Andy Griffith's performance as Will Stockdale. Its honesty, its directness, its reality are what I think make this performance worth watching for a second time all these years later. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that we present No Time for Sergeants as seen that night, March the 15th, 1955.
Howdy, I'm Will Stockdale. I'm fixing to tell you some of the things that happened to me in the draft, which I knew about didn't get into in the first place. Because when the draft man come to take me, Pa chased him off from the property and then put barbed wire all around to keep him off. I guess that I would have never gone nowhere. Only after that, a whole lot of men come out, and one of them was a man Pa knowed, and he talked to Pa real reasonable for a while, and finally Pa put away his rifle and said, okay, I could go. So I went. Juice harp. Whoa, mule, you kicking mule, whoa, mule, I say. Well, I ain't got time to kiss you now, my mules are running away. I took my wife to the barnyard and I sat her down to supper. Well, she got choked on a turkey leg and stuck her nose in the butter. Stuck her nose in the butter, stuck her nose in the butter. Well, she got choked on a turkey leg and stuck her nose in the butter. Well, Lynn, the draft men took me into Colville, and there was 5 or 6 others there going into the draft, town boys. And we was put on this bus and rode up through Pinehurst and Macon. I bet you it took us a half hour to even get through that Macon. Then on up through more towns till finally we come to this place called Fort Thompson. Now this fella here is named Irvin. The draft men put him in charge of the whole bunch of us. And I thought that was a right nice thing for him to do because Irvin's been sick. I heard this fella Lucky tell the others that Irvin had ROTC for a whole year. He still looks kindly peaked, don't he? So it was a pretty decent thing for the draft men to put him in charge of us and make him feel good and everything.
Hey, get back on your bunk, draft dodger. I don't want any trouble out of you. You understand?
Sure, Irvin, you bet. Sure. So, there I was in the draft. I wasn't too happy, though, with Irvin mad at me and everything. I mean, I heard a fella say one time that this here was a peacetime draft. So I didn't think I ought to go around arguing with anybody if I could help it. Howdy.
Was you going to take this bottom bunk?
Was it yours?
Usually in the Army, it's first come, first served. I was here this morning, only it took them till now to find uniforms the right size for me.
Sure, you go right ahead and take it. I didn't know.
No, I should have left something when the bunker show was here. That's the Army way of doing it, but I didn't.
Now, you go ahead.
No, it serves me right.
You take it. I was just sitting.
I'll take the top.
Listen, back home I can't sleep next to the floor nohow. I always heist my bed up about 5 foot with brickbats under it, and then use a chair to crawl up into it.
No, I don't deserve the bottom one. Let me. No, just because I'm short, that don't mean I can't. No. Stop there. Get your hand off that bag. Well, I've stood just about as much as I'm going to stand out of you.
Irvin, I wasn't doing
Well, can't you find somebody your own size to pick on? You got to pick on a little peanut like this? You watch your mouth. Why don't you mind your own business anyhow?
Now, listen, Shorty, I was just trying to help.
Shorty? Who you calling Shorty? Who asked you anything anyhow?
Who?
Now, listen here, Shorty. I'm the one that does the asking around here. Like, why ain't you plowboys got your bunks made up yet? You know it's a half out of taps?
We're making them up, Irvin, as fast as we can.
Irvin, give them time. Beds are strange to plowboys. They're used to sleeping with the hogs. Yeah, I bet the hogs are real lonesome tonight. Huh, Stockdale?
You hear that? The hogs is lonesome.
All right. Let's get those bunks made up, plowboys. And that includes you too, Shorty. Come on, Shorty. What do you want to go laugh with him for when he's cussing us and calling us plowboy?
He's been sick, and you ought not to get mad at anybody that ain't theirselves.
Oh.
I'm Will Stockdale.
Oh, hi, I'm Ben Whitledge.
Howdy, Ben.
Wise guy. If he's so sick, how come they took him in the draft?
Maybe the doctors was his friends. He is sick, Ben. I heard Lucky say it. Irvin had ROTC. For a whole year he had it.
What?
ROTC. That's why they put him in charge. They felt sorry for him. I guess he still must have a touch of it in him, the way he walks so stiff like and wears them dark glasses.
Well, ROTC ain't a sickness.
It ain't.
It's training, officer training.
It is.
ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corporation. If Irvin just had a year of it and he never finished the course, then he don't rank no higher than anybody else. I guess I don't know how ROTC works, all right. You see, there's different kinds. There's cavalry ROTC, infantry ROTC. Infantry, that's the best, because they're the ones that do the real fighting. All the men in my family was infantry. The rest aren't nothing but just helpers, that's all.
Yeah, that's what I always thought. The infantry's the best one.
It sure is. Listen, there just ain't any comparison. What about the war between the states? What about that?
Yeah, what about that? Ben, Irvin ain't sick.
No sicker than anybody else.
Then he ain't got no excuse for cussing and talking ugly to us.
Well, that's what I've been telling you, Will. Okay, I owe.
Irvin?
Come on, let's play.
Yeah? Would you mind standing up a minute and taking off them glasses? Why? I aim to bust you up some.
Come here, Plowboy's angry.
Well, Stockdale, there are 5. No, there's 6 of us and just 1 of you.
2.
Well. Okay, Plowboy.
Ben, are you sure about that ROTC?
Hey, get him! Come on.
I'll get this one. Joe was a pretty good fight, wasn't it, Ben?
We shouldn't have done it.
Oh, we whooped them 5. They won't be mad at us.
What ain't that? Listen, we were saying how the infantry is the best in everything, weren't we?
Yeah.
Then we want to get assigned the infantry, don't we?
Yep.
Dog, we never will now. You think the infantry wants folks that act like this? You'll see. They'll hear about this fighting. You know what they'll do? They'll put us in the Navy in them little white uniforms. Or maybe even the Coast Guard. Or the Air Force.
But I don't understand why.
Listen, let me explain it to you. Sit down. Sit down a minute. Let me get my box. Just sit down and listen to me now. Listen carefully. A real soldier, an infantry soldier, why, he don't have to go around getting into any little barracks fights. He just got off the battlefield where there's real fighting.
But, Ben, we ain't been on no battlefield.
I know we ain't. Don't you understand? The infantry wants folks that can take it and keep their mouth shut, the way a man ought to do. Ain't you ever seen no war movies?
Well, sure I have, Ben, but there ain't no battlefields around these parts.
I know there ain't.
Hey! Man, what happened here?
The heat. The passed out from the heat.
Rough like flies.
Yeah, I'll bet. Get him out of here.
You'll see. You'll see. Them little white uniforms. For the Air Force.
This here's your assignment.
Our assignment.
You lucky dogs, you're going into the Air Force.
The Air Force. I told you so. They heard about this fight. They didn't waste no time. The Air Force.
But, Ben, we didn't finish the fight hardly 5 minutes ago.
Serves me right. I should have known better than to get in a fight the very first evening.
But he said we was lucky dogs for going into our force.
The Air Force?
Well, they shipped us out on a train a couple of days later and rode us for 2 whole days. And Ben was about as miserable as a man could get. I got right worried about him. Right there's the train.
That's all right.
Ben, the others is having a mighty fine time back there. They're singing and shouting Roger and Wilco and all like that.
Roger.
Wilco!
Look, Will, you know what they call men in the Air Force? They call them airmen. I didn't like when they call you airman. Like something out of a dang funny book. Airman.
Well, he took on like that right through the train ride and right through the bus ride after that and right on through till we was at the Air Force base in our new barracks. And right there is where Sergeant King come into my adventures.
K-I-N-G. King. And this is my barracks. And you men are going to be here for about a week or so while they classify you. Now, this is just a stopping place for you, but it's home for me. So please, gentlemen, please keep it spick and span. Because when the barracks is spick and span, the captain's happy. And when the captain's happy, I'm happy. And when I'm happy, you're happy. It's a cycle, kind of, so don't nobody break it. Now, you can get your bedding from the supply room. Are there any questions? Roger.
Wilco!
Remember, gentlemen, I'm a peaceful man with a peaceful way of life. Got my stripes, my pay, my barracks. I joined up for security, gentlemen. And the first man that makes me feel insecure gets his neck broke. That's all.
Sergeant?
Mm-hmm.
Howdy, I'm Will Stockdale.
Mm-hmm.
I heard what you said out there about this being your home and all, and it is a right nice barracks. I mean, it's the nicest barracks I ever seen. So I wouldn't want you to get the idea that it was because we didn't like your barracks or because we didn't like you. That ain't the case at all. See, it's just that Ben's whole family's been in the infantry. Ask Ben Whitley's my buddy, sitting out there on his duffel bag. So, naturally, he don't want to be in no Air Force. See, it ain't nothing personal against you that we're leaving. It's just that the infantry's the real soldiers, and the Air Force ain't nothing but helpers.
Air Force ain't nothing but helpers.
That's right. Look at the war between the states.
War between the states.
So, I thought I ought to check with you before we left, you know, so you wouldn't waste no time looking for us or anything. Could you show us the way?
The way?
To the infantry.
Oh. To the infantry?
That's right.
Why do they send all the bums and idiots to my barracks? Why do they send all the 8 balls and expect me to make human beings out of them?
I don't know, do they?
I try. Heavens knows I try.
It sure must be a mess having nothing but bums and idiots. I'd like to help you out, but...
But you want to go to the infantry?
That's right.
You'd like to help me out?
I sure would, Sergeant.
You're going to help me out. Now, what do you think of that? I'm going to make you permanent latrine orderly. No, not just latrine, permanent barracks orderly. Now, what do you think of that?
That sounds right fine, Sergeant.
It is right fine. You don't think I'd make anybody permanent barracks orderly if I didn't think they were trustworthy and intelligent.
Oh, I'd sure like to do it, Sergeant, but I was kindly set on helping Ben get in the infantry. He's awful miserable.
How about me? Don't you think I'm awful miserable? Surrounded by nothing but morons and misfits.
And bums and idiots. Well, I don't know.
Please, boy.
Well, maybe I could try it out just for a little while.
Oh, thank you.
But Ben...
Don't you worry about Ben. He'll be taken care of. Don't you worry about anything. You know, that latrine ain't been cleaned proper since the last group left here. So why don't you go right in and start right into work?
Yes, sir.
That's a good boy.
You know you look a whole lot better already than you did when I first come in here.
I feel a whole lot better. A whole lot.
Well, it just goes to show you that good things happen to you when you're least expecting them. I stayed barracks orderly that whole week, and I done a right good job of cleaning things up, too, because nobody ever said I was trustworthy and intelligent before. And Sergeant King was right happy, too. He looked real pleased.
Boy, oh, boy. Yes, sir. What'll the captain seize this barracks? What'll the captain seize?
Sergeant, don't I have to get classified like the others are doing?
Classified? Boy, you've been classified. Anybody that can do the kind of job you're doing shouldn't be doing anything else. Yes, sir. Just don't say anything about it in the orderly room and everything will be all right. I got some friends, you know.
Oh, thank you, Sergeant.
Yes, sir. Bill, you were born to this work. I knew it the minute I set eyes on you. Yes, sir.
Well, didn't that make me feel pretty good? I scrubbed, and I painted, and I washed, and I polished. And finally, on Saturday morning, we had this big inspection with the captain himself coming around to look at things.
Here he comes, Will. Hurry up and get over by your bunk. Hurry up. Here he comes. Chin hut. Barracks ready for inspection, sir.
Why, this is splendid, Sergeant King, splendid. I've never seen the barracks so clean.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's just a matter of giving the men the proper supervision.
Commendable job. Lieutenant, look at this floor.
I scrubbed it all day yesterday.
Stockdale!
Don't credit me none, sir. It was all Sergeant King's doing.
You're at attention, Stockdale.
And the bunks have been painted.
I done that Thursday afternoon. That was Sergeant King's idea, too.
You painted all these bunks yourself?
And the foot lockers, too. But I spend most of my time in the latrine. Because Sergeant King said he never seen a man so interested in latrines as you are. You go in there and look at them faucets. I polished them so hard they don't say hot and cold no more.
Is this man on company punishment?
No, sir. Not exactly, sir.
Heck no, sir. I'm permanent barracks orderly.
Permanent barracks orderly?
Don't credit me none, though. It's all Sergeant King's idea. He even fixed it so I don't have to get classified nor nothing.
What?
But don't you worry about it, sir. He's got friends. Now, don't be modest, Sergeant. Sir, I've been wanting to tell you about what a good sergeant he is, so you won't be on his back all the time the way he says you are. Only you've been in the orderly room all week, and he told me, you know, not to be sure not to say nothing in the orderly room. So I'm right glad you come out of there this morning, because I guess that he's about the best dang sergeant there is in the whole dang dire force.
Sergeant King, I'd like to speak to you. At ease, you men.
Yes, sir.
Well, now, ain't that about the nicest captain you ever seen? And I'm sure glad I could do some good for Sergeant King, because I figure if someone does a favor for someone, then the second someone ought to try to do a favor for the first someone. Why, I bet you that if everybody in the world done favors for one another the way Sergeant King and me done, why, pretty soon there wouldn't be no problems at all. And everybody would...
You didn't have to do it. You really didn't have to do it.
I know, but you done a whole lot for me, and I thought I could help you out some.
Look, boy, we got to get you classified. Captain says that if you ain't out of this barracks with the same group you came in with, you're going to be here for your whole hitch. 2 whole years in my barracks. If I got a barracks, that is.
You mean I can't help you out no more?
You help me more than I can stand. Boy, we got to get you classified and shipped to some school 1,000 miles away from here.
But
That's orders. Come the end of this week, we got to have you classified.
Don't feel bad, Sergeant. I bet if they do ship me off away off somewhere, I can come back every now and again and see you. And that ain't all I done to help him out. You just wait and see what I done the next time. Howdy. Well, anyhow, Monday morning I got started with classification. Have you ever been classified? There was this one test where I was supposed to write down what I heard on the radio, only I didn't hear a blame thing. And then when I did hear something, I still didn't hear nothing, because all there was a bunch of dits and dots. But after a day or two, I got the hang of things, and with Sergeant King prompting me and showing me copies of the test before I took them, I guess I was doing pretty good on it all. There was this one test I done real good on. It was a puzzle, kindly, where I was supposed to put these two thingamajigs together. The fellow that gave me the test said nobody'd ever done it in less than a minute. But I done it just as easy as you please, and I reckon I broke some kind of record. The only thing was, this here corporal seemed to think that something wasn't quite right someplace. But Sergeant King reasoned with him for a while, and pretty soon he come to see our point of view. So everything was going right fine. I don't mind admitting I was kind of proud of myself.
Yes, sir, now. Vocabulary, arithmetical progression, all right. I think we're going to have you classified. Yes, sir, I think we're going... You got to see the psychiatrist. The who? The psychiatrist. Now, he's just a nice man who wants to chat with you for a while. I just don't want you to get nervous about it. He's going to talk to you to see what kind of personality you got, that's all. He's a very nice man.
Come in.
Major psychiatrist? Howdy.
Where are you from?
Georgia.
Georgia. Not much of a state, is it?
Well, I don't live all over the state. I just live in this one little place in it.
That's where Tobacco Road was, Georgia.
Not around my section. I ain't never seen no tobacco planted in no road. Maybe you're from a different part than me.
I've never been there. What's more, I don't think I'd ever go there. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I don't know.
I don't think I'd ever live in your rotten state. What about that?
Well, things has got right crowded around home, so it don't make much difference to me whether you live there or not. Not that we wouldn't be mighty glad to have you.
Are you always so impertinent to authority?
Oh, I wasn't aiming to be impertinent.
How was your childhood?
Well, I was kind of young.
Your mother? She was strict?
No.
Always threatening punishment, hovering over you?
No, just the opposite.
Oh, she was never there.
That's right.
You resented her neglect, didn't you?
No.
You hated her?
No,
Now remember, try to remember.
Well, I'll try if you want me to, but she died when I was born, so I don't hardly see how I can remember hating her.
She died before you were born, then? Why, you could have told me that in the beginning.
Well, I tried to, but you kept ending my sentences for me.
Your father, did he beat you?
Oh, yes, sir.
Hard?
Sure. I remember one time he took me out behind the pig pen and leaned me over the fence, and I'm dog if I ever got such a beating in my life.
He whips you frequently?
There can't nobody beat like my pa can.
You hate him?
No. I got an uncle I hate, though. Every time he comes out to the house, he's always wanting to wrestle the mule, and the mule gets all wore out, and he gets all wore out. I don't really hate him, though. It's just that I ain't exactly partial to him.
Did I ask you about your uncle?
I thought you liked to talk about hating people.
Let's talk about girls. How do you like them?
What girls is that, sir?
Oh, just girls, just any girls.
Well, I don't like just any girls. I mean, there's this one old girl back home, and they got hair hardly no longer than a hound dog.
No, now look, when I say girls, I don't mean any one particular girl. I mean, girl. The whole man-woman relationship. Didn't your father ever talk to you about it?
Yes, sir.
Don't you remember what he told you? Well, what did he tell you?
Well, there was this one about these two traveling salesmen. The car breaks down in the middle of this terrible storm, and they come running up to this farm. You heard it already?
No, I ain't heard it already.
Well, what'd you stop me for? It's a right clever story. See, they come running up to this farmhouse, and they rap on the door, and this girl, she...
Go. You're normal.
Listen, if you want to talk about girls some, why don't you come down to the barracks some night? The younger fellas is all time cracking spicy stories and all like that.
I do not want to talk about girls. I do not want to talk about girls. Now here, get out. Get out. I do not want to talk about girls.
Sir, I know it ain't my place to be giving advice, but I don't think you'd be so confused about girls if you'd go out with them some. They're right nice when you get to know them. He's a good old boy.
How did you do? Let me see. He wrote normal with 3 exclamation marks.
Did I pass?
Oh, you sure did, boy. You sure did. Now, all you got to do is take the eye test. And you look to me like an A-1 candidate for gunnery school.
Gunnery school? I can already shoot a rifle.
Now, listen. I got to go and get briefed by the captain on tomorrow's inspection. Now, I want you to take these papers right back to the barracks. Now, you're to do nothing tonight but rest your eyes. Hear me? Just rest your eyes. And tomorrow morning, right after inspection, we run you down to that little old eye test, and by tomorrow night, we got you out of here. So just rest your eyes, yeah? Just rest them. Good boy. Your eyes. Just rest them.
Well, it sure done me good to see Sergeant King so happy like that. I felt bad, too, though, 'cause I'd be going to gunnery school and, not seeing him no more. I guess that he was about my best friend in the whole draft, except, of course, for...
Will!
Bad!
How you doing?
Howdy.
I ain't hardly seen you all week. What have you been doing?
Classified.
Where you going?
Well, Sergeant King says if I pass the eye test, I'll be going to gunnery school.
That's where I'm going. I just passed the eye test, and the fellow over there said, like, I've been going to the gunnery school.
How about that?
How about that?
Ain't you sad no more about not being in the infantry?
Oh, heck no. Why, the Air Force is the real soldiers. The infantry and the rest are nothing but helpers, that's all.
Say they are.
Why, sure, this is the air age, Will.
How about that?
How about that? Now, look, you run right down there and take that eye test right now, you hear? It's that little building right down the end of the line there.
All right.
And then we'll both be in the same class at gunnery school, and how about that?
How about that?
What kind of rowdy-dow is this? I repeat, Private, what kind of rowdy-dow is this? Roughhousing in the streets.
Sir, ma'am, we weren't roughhousing.
Who knocked your caps off, little elf?
No, sir, ma'am. It's just that we're feeling happy because we're going to school together.
That's no excuse for... What's the matter with this one?
Nothing, sir, ma'am. Get her attention.
We're sending this to school?
Yes, sir, ma'am. If he passes the eye test, he'll be going to gunnery school.
As what? A target?
No, ma'am.
Let's have no more rowdy-dow. Do you understand? No more.
Yes, sir, ma'am. What's the matter with you? Don't you know when I have to stand at attention and salute an officer?
She was a woman.
Well, sure she was a woman. Ain't you never heard of the Women's Air Force?
You mean they got one, too?
Yeah, they do.
Against ours?
Why, no, Will, they're with us. They're with us 100%.
And we got to salute them?
Well, the officers would do. Didn't you hear that lecture about military courtesy?
Well, I'm dogged if I ever heard of saluting no woman.
She wasn't a woman, she was a captain. I seen a captain standing there, so I come to attention and I saluted. A captain, that's all.
A woman captain.
A captain. By dog, Will, don't you understand nothing? When you're in uniform, you ain't supposed to notice whether a person is a man or a woman or what. A captain is a captain, a major is a major, and a general is a general.
Ben, you mean you didn't notice she was a woman?
I seen a captain standing there. A captain, that's all I seen.
Well, dog it, Ben, I knowed she was a woman right off.
You know, sometimes, Will, sometimes I don't think they should have taken you in the draft nohow.
Well, I mean, I thought she was a woman. But if Ben said she won't, I guess she won't. So I went on over and took the eye test like Ben told me to, and when it was all over with, it was supper time, so I went straight on over to the mess hall.
Excuse me.
She's getting classified. Appreciate it.
Ah, here he is. Here's my boy. Would you mind? Attaboy.
Howdy, Irvin.
down,
Lucky.
Hi, Will. How are you?
Yes, sir. You ought to seen the way my boy breezed through those tests. 1, 2, 3. Bim, bam, boom. Gunnery school. That's where he'll be going.
That's great. That's where we're going.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Tomorrow morning, right after inspection, we run him down that little old eye test, and by tomorrow night, he's out of here.
Already
On his way
took
to
the eye
gunnery.
test.
You already took the eye test?
Ben showed me where it was. I just had it.
Well, where are the papers? How did you do?
The fella in there kept the papers because I was the last test.
Well, you passed it, didn't you? Did you pass it?
I don't know. They had this sign on the wall that I was supposed to read with all kinds of peculiar words on it. Things like fun lip and panur. But then the fella said I was just supposed to read it one letter at a time, and that made it a whole lot easier.
Well, you read it right, didn't you? You passed, didn't you, Will?
I don't know. The fella...
Phelps, there's that new WAF captain. I hear she's a real tornado.
The colonel's showing her around. Women officers. That sure is one thing I don't cotton to.
Yeah, me neither.
Me neither. What about you, Will? What do you think of them?
Think of what?
Women officers.
Women officers? Yeah. I ain't never seen one.
There's one there. You can see her, can't you?
I see a colonel and a captain. That's all.
A woman captain.
A captain, that's all.
Well, ain't you got eyes?
Now, look, Will. Listen to me. I want you to turn around very slowly. Look very carefully and tell me exactly what you see.
I see... colonel and a captain, that's all.
But the captain's a woman captain, ain't she? Not much of a woman, but a woman, ain't she?
I don't notice whether it's a man or a woman or what. All I see is a captain, that's all.
He never passed no eye test.
No.
What ails you, Sergeant?
He ain't gonna be
What's the matter with you?
Easy, Sergeant.
What's the matter?
He's gonna lose me my bags. Get me out of here.
Come on. Don't you feel good?
He ain't gonna do this to me. He ain't gonna do it. I'm old and I'm tired. My Constitution needs peace and security. Get me out of here. Get me out of here.
Ain't you gonna finish your supper? Excuse me, I can't eat. Maybe if I can get a tonic or something down into him, he'll feel a whole lot better. What's going on, Ben? How's the sergeant?
Will, I've been waiting for you. Come here, quick. Listen, they're plotting against you in there. Irvin and Lucky and the sergeant, I heard them. The sergeant said how you was going to lose him his barracks, so Irvin said, why don't they take you to town and I can get you drunk so you miss tomorrow's inspection and end up in the guardhouse.
But, Ben, why should the sergeant...
Oh, there he is. There's my boy.
How you feeling, Sergeant? You better now?
Oh, much better, much better. Yes, sir.
But Ben said he heard you say...
Ben talks too much. Attention, you. Yes, sir, I feel fine. And I'm so proud of you, I'm going to take you into town for a little celebration. Now, what do you think of that?
Oh, that's my...
Quiet, you. And that's an order from a man of superior rank. Come on, boy, the drinks are on me.
Oh, I appreciate it, Sergeant. But couldn't Ben come along to celebrate with us?
No, Ben's got a special job to do. The colonel's inspecting tomorrow, and Ben's got to get the barracks all shaped up spick and span.
Oh, remember what I told you? I'll come back early and help you, Ben.
Yeah, you'll be back early then. Tell me, Bill, you much of a drinker?
No, I ain't never drunk no store whiskey at all.
Never no stores. That's fine, that's fine. Oh, then you'll appreciate it more. Yes, sir, this is going to be one party you ain't never going to forget. This is going to be an A number 1 4-star farewell celebration party. And when I say farewell, I do mean farewell.
the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, zooming to meet our thunder. Attaboy, give her the gun, give her the gun. Down we going, spouting our flames from under. Off with one hell of a roar. We live in flames, but we're down in flames. Hey, stop the
The purple rock toad. Show is purple, all right. So coming through.
Sit down, make yourself comfortable. All right.
Coming through here. Coming through. Coming through. Wet. Oh, look at that. Here we go. My glass is bigger than everybody else's. I say my glass is bigger than everybody else's.
You're the guest of honor, ain't you?
That's right.
Here's a toast to the guest of honor.
So wake up. Guest of honor.
How'd you like it?
Well, it's a mite sharper than that Pepsi-Cola they got over at the canteen.
Well, let's have another toast to the guest of honor.
Yeah.
Here's to the guest of honor.
The guest of honor.
Ain't we gonna toast you and Lucky and Irvin?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Well, here's to Irvin.
Irvin, to me.
Believe I'll play the Victrola some.
Sarge, I didn't eat much supper. The trouble is, Sarge, he's drinking all the same kind of stuff.
Well, I don't have any money to buy anything else.
Some beer? Oh, and here's some wine.
Fine.
You gonna mix? Oh.
You know, you've been drinking the same kind of stuff all night, and that's going to make you sick. You got to mix it up. A little variety in it.
That's variety. That's right, Sarge.
Ain't everybody gonna drink?
Oh, yeah, sure, everybody.
Now, Sergeant King, the best dang sergeant in the whole dang dive force, dang it.
You sure you never drank any whiskey before?
Never no store whiskey, just some old stuff my uncle makes.
Stuff.
Corn liquor. Corn and grain and kerosene.
Kerosene?
Kerosene.
Just a mite for flavoring.
Where are we going to get kerosene?
I got some lighter fluid.
Give it here.
Lighter?
Yes, sir. My boy wants kerosene. By dog, he gets kerosene. Yeah?
It's familiar. Right familiar. You know, I ain't never been a guest of honor before. Hey, there's an infantryman. Hey, infantry.
You fly boys call me?
Sure did. Have a drink. We'll celebrate.
Fine. Thanks a lot.
Sit right down.
I ain't never seen fly boys so like the infantry before.
Well, heck, you are helpers, ain't you?
Helpers? Why, you guys got it easier than anybody. Even easier than the Navy.
Why, thank you. We sure appreciate that.
Easy. Boy, in the papers it says that the place we're at is the dirtiest, filthiest, muddiest, cruddiest place in the whole United States.
Ah, the paper said the same thing about our place. Where you guys is heaven compared to where we're at.
Oh, that's mighty nice of you to say.
Listen, Bob.
They march us 15 miles every single day.
20 miles they march us. 25 when it rains.
Well, you don't pull half the dirty details that we pull.
Details? Well, you guys don't even know what details is. What? Why, there ain't a guy in the whole Air Corps that can do details like anybody in the infantry.
Listen, you,
if you're so...
on the infantry, why don't you shove off and stop drinking Air Force liquor?
Sergeant!
Yeah, get going, dog.
Yes, there ain't no Air Force in it can talk that way about the infantry, buddy.
It is familiar. Sergeant King. It's taking on pretty late, Sergeant, and I promised Ben I'd come back in time to have him clean. Would you mind if I leave now? I'll see you back to backs, okay? Appreciate the celebration.
Sergeant, where's Stockdale?
Sarge, we were supposed to have him thrown in the cornhouse, weren't we, Sarge?
Sergeant, you outsmarted us. I sure hated to leave, but if I'd have stayed much longer, I'd have got a mite woozy. So I come on back to the barracks and give Ben a hand. And in the morning, before inspection, I worked on this special idea I had to welcome the colonel. It ain't every day the colonel himself comes to inspect. Well, I don't get it. Well, see, I got this treadle kindly for the colonel to step on, and this here wire here goes off to the phonograph in Sergeant King's room, and this one here goes up, and I got a mess of stuff up there. It'll be a great welcome, Ben. You'll see it all when it happens.
I don't know. I wish Sergeant King was here.
Don't you worry. He ain't gonna miss no inspection if he can help it. Here comes the colonel. Dog, here they come. How'd it get so late?
I don't know. Who's going to report? The sergeant ain't here, Irvin.
You!
Oh, no.
You salute real good.
Oh, no.
Now go ahead. But don't step on that board.
Well, I don't know. All right. 10. Hut. Barracks ready for inspection, sir.
My finest barracks, sir. It was immaculate when I inspected last week.
Looks fine. Yes, indeed.
What's the meaning of this?
Welcoming the colonel, sir.
You! Where's Sergeant King?
I reckon he's on sick call, sir.
Sick call. He'll be on sick call. Sir, there's a madman running this barracks.
Well, never mind that.
Never mind. Let's get on with the inspection.
10. Hut. Get out of here. The colonel is here. Get out of here.
Explain. Well, sir, we went to this moving picture show, and there were 8 sailors sitting behind us. And they took to cussing out the Air Corps and as saying as how our officers ain't half as good as naval officers.
So you fought them all night?
Yes.
What was the name of the picture?
Oh. It was a John Wayne picture, sir. Named Forward March, American Battalion of the Air. In the wild blue. It was a sneak preview, sir. Maybe.
And how do you account for the mysterious aroma of alcohol?
Maybe them sailors poured whiskey all over them so you'd think there's really at the Purple Grotto.
You 2 men are leaving for gunnery school, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Well, we let gunnery school discipline you. As for you, Sergeant King, I'd like to speak to you in the orderly room. I think the colonel would like to say a few words, too.
Yes, indeed.
Look out for that blasted booby trap!
Short-circuited. I don't mind telling you, I was right worried about Sergeant King. I mean, I kindly felt that him being in trouble was a little bit my fault. At least part ways, anyhow.
It's on the bulletin board, Will. The gunnery school list. You made it.
Swell.
We better start packing.
Ben, what's going on in the orderly room?
Can't tell. The shades is down. The captain was screaming some, but it's quiet now.
Sergeant King.
Private King. 40-year-old Private King.
You mean you ain't a sergeant no more? Oh.
No sympathy, please. I'm happy, do you hear me? I'm happy. And do you know why I'm happy? I'm happy because they took away my stripes. They took away my barracks. But that wasn't enough of them, no. We can't have this man around here setting a bad example for the new men, says the colonel. And the captain says, how will we get rid of him? And the colonel says, you got a bunch of men shipping out to gunnery school. Add his name to the list. But I'm happy, do you hear me? I'm happy because I'm going and you're staying. I'm leaving you 1,000 miles behind. I'm 40 years old. I'm a private. And I'm going to gunnery school. And I'm happy, do you hear me? I'm happy.
Sergeant?
Private!
I ain't staying here.
Oh, yes, you are. You couldn't have passed that.
Sure I passed the eye test.
You ain't going to gunnery?
Sure, we're all going to be together.
Oh, no.
He's crying. Sergeant. When you get old, it's hard to control your emotions.
Don't cry, Sergeant. We'll all be together. You and me and Will. Why, we're going to be like the Three Musketeers.
Good night. Good night, Pa.
Hey, wait for me, Pa.
Whoa, mule, you kicking mule. Whoa, mule, I say. Well, I ain't got time to kiss you now. My mule's a run away. I took my wife to the barnyard and I sat her down to supper. Well, she got choked on a turkey leg and stuck her nose in the butter. Stuck her nose in the butter. Stuck her nose in the butter. Well, she got choked on a turkey leg and stuck her nose in the butter.